Hey guys, Dennis Farrell here for the Wrestling Perspective podcast. Thank you so much for listening and coming back. This week's show is going to have a little bit different of a feel to it. As some of you guys may know, I posted on it on Twitter a few days before I'm actually recording this podcast. Now, I don't know when I'm going to have to release this, but unfortunately, my grandmother is in her last days and weeks. She lived an amazing life. On Christmas Day, she will or would have been 85 years old. So when she goes, I'm going to have to go back to St. Louis to for her memorial, to mourn the loss and celebrate a life of probably the most amazing woman I've ever known. I don't want to bum you guys out. So thank you so much for all the well wishes when I initially put out this information. The rest of this podcast are going to be some of the interviews Petey and I did from the last year or so, just kind of thrown up. I want people who have not had a chance to listen or revisit it to check out some of these interviews. I've taken other interviews and edited them because they were pretty good information in a few of them, and I may or may not have had to edit out someone. So I'm not quite sure. I'm actually pre-recording the intro before I actually do the work. Unfortunately, I am going to have to shill some stuff here. So, my grandma passing away, and I'm not above using my grandmother's memory to sell a shirt or two. So, my grandma would want you to go buy a Wrestling Perspective shirt. Trust me. You know what? She would. I think she even told me in her last dying words were, "Make sure your fan base buys a shirt." Look, she's very concerned and loving individual. I deal with loss with humor, by the way. Anyways, go to what for WHATFOR apparel.com/WPP. There are many great shirts over there. There's two NWO style ripoff shirts, one with a little bit of a Canadian background. So if you're in Canada, that's a must buy. We have a Get These Mics. It's the new thing we're trying on the podcast. Don't worry about it. Anyways, Get These Mic shirt. Go over to whatforapparel.com/WPP and support the show. My grandma would want you to. And maybe that'll be the next shirt we have is buy this shirt for my grandmother. I don't know. Anyways, and also one thing my grandma wouldn't want you to do, but Petey and I does, is go over to bluechew.com. Buy some Blue Chew. Listen, you hear it on all the podcasts. Do you want to be Triple H and Undertaker from Crown Jewel in bed, or do you want to be Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho? I know the answer to that in bed. It's Omega Jericho. It's a 5-star match. You want to impress the person you're with, the fans at ringside. Look, just go over to Blue Chew, spend $5 for shipping and handling, get your first order free. It's got the same active ingredients as Cialis and Viagra. It's made in the USA, so it's cheaper. It's done online. You'll get it faster. You don't have to wait in any waiting rooms to get a prescription for this, and it absolutely works. I use it. I love it. You should use it. Even if you're sitting there going, I don't need it. Trust me. It takes you from being The Rock to The Rock. So go get Blue Chew. If anything, go get it to support us. WPP is the promo code. Use it. Get the Blue Chew, and we're all happy. Now, on to some interviews here. Some of the highlights of this first interview here I want to play from you was, I believe, Petey and myself's first interview with the Wrestling Perspective. We were nervous. We reached out to Jeff Jarrett, who came on. This interview was recorded probably 3 or 4 days before he was set to go in to the WWE Hall of Fame, I believe, last year or so. So please enjoy this podcast interview.
All right. So this is the part of the podcast, Dennis, we've been waiting for. So I'll introduce him since, he was probably one of my favorite bosses I ever worked for. Just a little bit of recap. He's 6-time TNA champ, 4-time WCW champ, 6-time IC champ. And I didn't know this, but he had 77 total championships. And he's my uncle, Uncle Jeff Jarrett. How you doing, Jeff?
Oh, I've done a lot of media over the last month or so, and I don't think that I've actually been interviewed by my nephew. So, little guy, little Pete, little nephew, how we doing?
Good. So, before we get started and stuff, I just want to say congratulations to the Hall of Fame.
I appreciate that. And I really do. I sincerely appreciate that. Both you guys, I appreciate you having me on. But you know what? Let me just flip the tables real quick and let me do the interviewing. So Petey, for the newer listeners that don't know our relationship and how far back it goes, and I appreciate your kind words about I was one of your favorites to work for, but that's okay. I raised you better than that. But no, if you'll sort of give some people a little background on where the Uncle Jeff came from, and I think that might be a little bit appropriate. Well, Dennis, do you even know where that came from?
Was it from the airport?
No.
I don't know.
Jeff,
I want to
you
hear
don't even remember
story.
that.
No.
Come on, Pete, spill it.
Well, I really don't know. Like, here's the thing. So Uncle Jeff, started the X Division pretty much. So he gave us all young guys a chance, to actually shine in wrestling because stuff wasn't going on like that in WWE at the time. So, we're all like younger guys, early 20s and stuff like that. And I don't know how we came up with it or whatever, but all of a sudden, I think we were all talking and it was kind of like, one of us said like Uncle Jeff. I don't know if it was me, if it was Sanjay, but then we just started calling him Uncle Jeff, and I've been calling him Uncle Jeff since maybe for 14 years now, maybe 13 or 14 years, and it's never stopped. Even when I saw you in August, it didn't stop.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm actually halfway joking with you, but halfway serious. So the people are like, why in the heck does he call him Uncle Jeff? But I really think it was, if I remember it correctly, it was you, it was Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, Sanjay, Jay Lethal. It was that, and you guys. There was some kind of reference going on, just sort of exhibition. But I think we were going over a 5-way or a 6-way match or something like that. And I think I threw out some kind of idea. Maybe Petey, I don't know. I don't remember the particulars. I just remember, and somebody referenced. He said, "Man, you're like the crazy uncle coming up with these ridiculous ideas." And I'm like, guys. I said, go out there and maximize your time. Show the world what you got, or something along those lines. And then it was like the next day at TV. It was one of you guys, and then it's sort of stuck ever since with that little, that core group of guys. There wasn't many of you guys, but to this day, Jay or whoever will still reference that from time to time.
Yeah, and and we still do. Like, and I'll tell you something just before we get on to like our first question here. When I came back in August, when Demore had texted me, and it was so funny because he said, I think you would like management now. It's kind of the group that we used to have that you really like. It's like myself, Abyss, Borash, and he even texted me Uncle Jeff. So he knows, everybody knows that I call you Uncle Jeff. So yeah, that's that. But all right, Jeff, I want to start with a question, and it's pretty much reference to like this Uncle Jeff stuff and the contributions you had to pro wrestling. So, you look at all the wrestlers that started in TNA, a company that you created, and you look at like where these wrestlers are now and all their accomplishments and stuff. Do you feel that your contributions to the wrestling business are downplayed? Because I kind of feel like that. Do you feel that way?
And Petey, not at all. But here's why. I've, as you well know, that my family's been in the business for years and years and years and years, and I always leave that up because it's so subjective. It really is. Whether it's a wrestling fan, a wrestling journalist, a wrestling critic, a wrestler, whatever it may be, it might make for good discussions and good debates. And I've heard a lot of debates, whether, going in the Hall of Fame, who's not in the Hall of Fame, that kind of stuff. But as far as contributions go, what I've always understood about this business is, whether it's you or anybody that I just referenced earlier, or AJ or Samoa Joe, or it doesn't matter, any of those guys, the cream always rises to the top. If you've got talent, you'll get to the top. Attitude keeps you there, but you definitely got to have the talent. So all of you guys, I was a small part of giving you guys a platform. And just like that story we referenced, you guys all, time after time after time, the X Division not just stepped up to the plate, but stepped up to the plate and hit it out of the park. And it was really a good feeling to see how things grew back in that time frame that we're referencing right now.
Okay.
I've got a question for you. Now, as well as we know, the wrestling world was shocked when they announced you going into the WWE Hall of Fame, which I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia on Southern Wrestling. I missed the Attitude Era because I was watching WCW wrestling, so I couldn't be myself prouder to see you go in. But how was the first conversations about you going into the WWE? How did that go over?
Quick. The first thing is, it was on a Sunday morning, and I got a text, and it was from a WWE official, and said, "Hey, can you chat real quick?" And I'm like, "Sure." And the call was pretty direct. "Hey, what's going on?" And Karen was down in our bathroom, and she was getting ready for church, and the kids were getting dressed, and it was like a normal Sunday morning around here. Just a lot of moving parts. And the question was very quick and direct in the call. "Hey, we're calling you. We'd like for you to go in the Hall of Fame. Would you accept the offer?" And I was for a minute I paused. I'm like, "Is this like a yes or no, or a maybe, or I'll get back with you kind of question?" Of course I'd love the opportunity. I was very, very shocked and surprised, but then, all pretty much in the same conversation, in the same breath, I was incredibly humbled by the ask, and it started to sink in. And then, the couple of days after that, I had to just really take a step back and think about everything. And it's very, very humbling honor, to say the least.
What was your favorite version of the Jeff Jarrett character? Because it has evolved so many times over the years that I've watched you wrestle. I've always wanted to ask you, what was the favorite, your favorite just time being Jeff Jarrett? What were you doing? How were you doing it?
For me to say, and especially I guess you could say the longevity I've had in my career. One thing from an early age, the constant has been Jeff Jarrett. There's Double J. There's like you said, different versions. But the one thing that for the easy thing is that there's a lot of guys that got in the business like myself. My first match was in '86. That went through complete name changes, and you can take your pick. But I've always been my God-given name, Jeff Jarrett. So it's just been different extensions of my personality, and obviously with the Hall of Fame coming up, and the song "With My Baby Tonight," and that's how I debuted. That's gotten a tremendous amount of attention. But like on my Instagram, my kids and me, we came up with an idea to post a different picture from each year of my career during the 31 days of March. And you just sort of look as things progress. When I started here and I was the good guy in Tennessee and the 7-state area, the territory area, and then WWF, and then WCW, and then, TNA. And so, each period, it was just an evolution, so to speak. And I don't really, I certainly don't have any one era. But I do remember, something fondly from each era. But it was, hate to say it, but man, it seems like just yesterday, and you can probably relate to this, we were the kids in the locker room. Obviously, I was in the kid in the locker room 15 years before Petey was, or more. But man, it just seems like overnight. And now, I'm due to this Hall of Fame situation and over the past month, I've never been a guy to look in the rearview mirror, but I've sort of been, I guess I've had to. And when I look back and just look at the progression and, got my hair cut and had that look and then, just as things evolved. And obviously in TNA, I was, by design, I had to take on new roles and new responsibilities. And then you get up in the later years and the situation. And, I had a series of matches late in my career against Kurt Angle that I look back on fondly and very proud that, when you get in the ring with Kurt, you know that you're going to be in a match. And so, we worked together for every night for over 6 months. So just different evolutions of and playing extensions of my personality. I've always, no matter what situation, tried to give the audience a little something different because it's how I was raised in the business. You've got to evolve without question, and that's what I always tried to do.
So Uncle Jeff, since we're looking back at your career, looking back at your entire career, whether it be wrestling related or your business ventures, knowing where everything's going to end up and where you're at today, us speaking, would you do anything differently? The short answer is no, because, then you're trying to argue with time and set of circumstances. I literally, if I was forced to and had a gun to my head, I could take every year of my career and shred to pieces and say, if I could have did a little something different here and a little something different here and a little something different here, wonder how things would have turned out. But that's like having a regret, and regrets are truly useless. So no, the short answer, Petey, is absolutely not. Did I make all the right decisions? Oh my God, no, not even close. but the effort was always there without question.
Well, let's get out of the Wayback Machine and take a look into the future. I don't know how much you can tell us, or if it's a secret, or if there's anything behind these rumors, but the internet is ablaze lately with the talks that you're kind of being recruited as one of Triple H's up and coming right hand man to help NXT, or just being involved in the WWE. Are there any truths to the rumor? Do you have any plans with the WWE after the Hall of Fame? What does your future look like?
And that's funny. I literally was just at a ball game with my daughter in basketball, and a guy came up to me who I hadn't seen in a while, but I see him around town all the time. And that was the question he asked me, and I turned him around, and I said, I can tell you without question, you don't follow wrestling, but obviously you've heard this, and he saw the article in the local paper and blah, 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 and all that. And I said, I haven't had zero conversations with the WWE about nothing. The only thing I've discussed is 100% Hall of Fame related, travel, access, WrestleMania weekend. So that's exactly the status of that.
Well, you bring up WrestleMania again, and I have to know, as far as I can remember, you were in 2 WrestleManias and bumped from 1. Do you have any, WrestleMania moments that just really will stick to you until your dying day?
Well, I mean, I think there were 3, maybe 4.
Okay.
But by far my favorite. I got the team with Owen, and in Philly. I think that was 17, or I'm not exactly sure which number that was. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 15, 16. I don't know whatever number it was. But I got the team with Owen, and I can remember. Obviously, it was in the Attitude Era. The business was just on fire. Words really can't describe it. And this generation of fans, because it goes back over 20 years ago, it's really hard to imagine, to discuss, and for people to imagine how hot it was. Both organizations, Raw, Nitro, Red Hot, then SmackDown and Thunder were added, and the live event business. It really, it was such a special time to be in the business, because technology hadn't progressed like it is now, and there's no way to duplicate those times. Both companies just on fire. So, that, and then WrestleMania 13, when I defended the IC title against Razor, and X-Pac, or at that time, 1-2-3 Kid was in his corner, Rhodey was in mine. Me and Rhodey really had a momentum and a lot of steam on it, and that was in Hartford. So, those kind of memories will stick with me forever.
Pete?
Okay. No, that's good. Jeff, anything, you want to say? Well, thanks, first off, for coming on our podcast. Really appreciate it. And once again, congratulations big time on the Hall of Fame nomination and induction. Anything, you want to say, promote or anything?
Wait. Can I cut you off? I have one more question for him. I just have to ask him.
Oh, okay.
Go for it, my man. You're all over it. Pete was already ready to wrap it up, but that's okay.
Go
ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
So with you mentioned technology, and it just kind of popped in my head that kind of the podcast saved the comedy stand-up business. How do you feel like podcasting, with all the wrestlers getting involved, all the fans getting involved, how has that either revived or hurt the wrestling industry?
Well, I remember, before I broke into the business, you would hear old-timers complain about this or complain about that, but then on the flip side, you would also hear the same argument. You can't kill this wrestling business. Just keep them talking about it. And that's exactly what podcasting is. It is a discussion. It's debatable if it's healthy or not. That doesn't really factor into my mindset, but I believe the business is healthier today because you just sort of have to take a step back and really look at it. It's $1 billion. Now what is the WWE worth? $3 billion? I mean, it's mainstream. The hottest box office attraction in the world is The Rock. He's a third-generation wrestler. John Cena is on movies, television shows, Fruity Pebble boxes. You name it. His name, likeness is everywhere. There's reality shows all across USA Network. There's so much content. The WWE Network exists. Then you get into the other promotions around the world, CMLL in Mexico. You've got Noah and Wrestle One and New Japan and 3 or 4 promotions in Japan. Then you've got the Red Hot scene in the United Kingdom. And the wrestling community, to me, is now more connected than ever. It used to be, and I don't know if either one of you guys can relate to this, used to be if you wanted to watch wrestling out of your home, territory that you could watch on your TV, you had to trade tapes. Now with the network and YouTube and FITE, that app, just all the different forms that you could see. It's truly a global situation, and these podcasts, and there's a lot of them out there. Good Lord, there's a lot of them out there. But I think it's very, very healthy. And the fact that my old friend, Petey Williams, calls me up, texts me, email, we get in contact, and the fact that I'm sitting here, and chatting with you guys, and we're talking not just about the Hall of Fame, but, the early days of TNA and the X Division, and now you've got me talking about podcasting. It's healthy. It's truly healthy for the industry, in my opinion.
I would be remiss if I let this opportunity go by that I don't ask you, what were your first impressions of Petey Williams when they pitched hiring to you?
On.
I have to ask this. What was your first impression of, like the scouting report of Petey Williams when they brought this guy to you and said, hey, maybe we should take a look at him?
The scouting report read, uncanny athletic ability. He's Canadian. So right there were 2 things going for him. Everybody knows I got a soft spot in Canadians. But no, but Petey's, he goes without saying. I would say this if he wasn't on the line night. He's very, very athletic and quote unquote gets it. And during that time frame, when the X Division, where it was at, how big it was, where it was going, he was really. I mean, he was perfect. If not to get too overly dramatic here, but he was a big cog in that wheel, and his finisher, it goes without saying, it was one of those things where no matter how many times you set up for it and went into it and false finish out of it or escape from it, hate to use this word to somebody, it's so cliche, but the finisher is over to this day. And that was something that, the X Division, not about weight limits, it's about no limits. And that move really encapsulated. I can hear Don West and Mike Tenay calling those matches, just the anticipation of it. And then, there was the thing that the X Division was much more about sport as opposed to entertainment. But then you put Petey and Little Papa Pump and Big Papa Pump and that kind of stuff that integrated into it. The minute by minutes, we can dig those up and prove it. It was they got ratings, and Petey definitely knew how to deliver in the X Division. So it was yes. Whether Petey was on this podcast or not, I almost called it call. Whether Petey was on this podcast or not, I'd be saying the exact same thing. And you look back in history during that era, and there's proof in the pudding there.
Jeff, I thank you so much for the kind words. You know what? And we've never had this conversation before, and I didn't know that's how you felt about me. So thank you very much. And
definitely.
Thanks for everything you've done for the wrestling business, not only for me but for the wrestling business. I truly, I truly do feel that. And and congratulations again. And any last words from you, Jeff, before we wrap this up?
That's it. No, I appreciate it, guys. I've been overwhelmed, and I literally, most of the time, whether it's however it is, I've always, I grew up in the business again, so I know that there's a side of this business that sometimes you got to face the music, and I've always done that, and PR is a part of this industry, and I've always, but during this Hall of Fame, I'm not promoting anything. I'm not, I'm literally answering you guys' questions. So I have done my very best to not turn down any request. And it's been a little bit challenging. I will say that when I'm trying to do my day-to-day business and then wife, kids, workouts, everything else, it has been a bit challenging. I appreciate you guys being flexible with me. I was running a little late. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. And when Petey reached out, there is no way in hell that I would say no to my man. So Petey is, he doesn't believe it, but he's been very good to me as well. So thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. And April 6th, 2018 is Hall of Fame. So looking forward to that for sure.
Next, we're going to listen to a short interview from Sami Callihan, but I got to say that Jeff Jarrett still might have been one of my favorites, maybe because it was the first, but still one of my favorites. Sami Callihan took about 5 minutes here with us at one of the Impact tapings to talk a little bit about kayfabe and keeping a character intact through these days and ages of social media. All right, Petey Williams, we're back here, Wrestling Perspective Podcast. Another special guest you and I brought in. It is Sami Callihan, the Draw. Sami, thank you for joining us.
The specialist of guests, to be adequately rated at this right now. The specialist.
Dennis, he is the Draw. He is carrying Impact on his shoulders right now.
The specialist.
The ratings on our podcast just went up because you were here now.
I know, that's the thing. That's the thing about me. Anywhere I go, I'm the Draw. Hashtag the Draw.
How did you come up with that?
It's something that was kind of given to me at AAW in Chicago. I was having a World Championship reign. Me, Dave, and Jake pretty much doing the same thing there that we did here, feuding with Pentagon, feuding with Phoenix. It got to the point with me just calling myself the Draw because when I left WWE and went back onto the Indies, they were the first place I actually showed up. And part of my voice right now, I have no voice from TV tapings this weekend from screaming so much. So if you can't hear me, I'll try to enunciate a little bit better so you can actually make out what I'm saying. But that kind of set AAW on storm. It set them on fire. It was one of the things that brought them to the next level of independent wrestling and got people talking.
Now, Petey, I tried to talk you into letting Sami Callihan shave my head on TV, like pull me out of the crowd, hold me down, and shave my head. They said no.
Still happen.
They can't?
Yeah, we should shave your head right now on the podcast.
No, it doesn't get any ratings.
We'll simulcast this through a video click link, and everyone can go together. We're making history right now.
No, it lost its moment.
No, it lost its moment.
I love this guy. Hey, so Sami, I met you back Ring of Honor days, probably like a 2009-ish.
Yeah.
And you were
Dearborn, Michigan.
It was Dearborn, Michigan. It was my Ring of Honor debut. Just got released by Impact not too long ago. And I remember I didn't know anything about you. You were still.
I know a lot about you at the time.
Well, thank you. And I remember
That's not good.
Going over the match and stuff like that. And I'm like, who can base me? And then you were like a phenomenal base for me, doing my dives and all that kind of stuff. So tell me about you're working your way up from there, Ring of Honor. I mean, you hit it pretty quick, and then you went and got signed by WWE and stuff.
A funny story about that. I remember actually, you're like, who can do this Hurricane Rana thing when I jump out of the ring and land on someone. I had never done it before, but I was like, this is one of my big chances at Ring of Honor. I was like, I can definitely do it. I've done it 1,000 times. Never had done it before that time.
Could you ever imagine the evolution of the Sami Callihan character from when you left WWE to where you are right now?
I knew this was kind of the way it was going to go, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to happen and how quick it'd pick up. I didn't think me hitting someone in the face with a baseball bat was going to launch my career into a different echelon and bring me to that next level of professional wrestling in this entire industry.
But
I almost got taken out by a mop.
We're in a broom closet, by the way. But, I don't know too much about the story. We saw the clips. Were you guys okay? Are you guys okay now professionally?
Don't talk about it.
Okay. Understandable.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk.
No, I don't blame him.
I've said it before. I've said it 1,000 more times. I'm sick of hearing about it.
Okay.
Because the same people that want to talk all this garbage and all this trash on me about that are the same people that are riding my jockstrap right now after me and Pentagon's match a couple weeks ago.
Which was phenomenal, by the way.
Exactly.
I thought it was great.
No, I loved every bit of it. And then the upcoming Mexican Death Match that's going to air on Impact too.
How dare Meltzer not give us 5 stars? 4.5 stars, my ass.
What do you think? You're doing a podcast. What do you think podcasting with wrestlers doing their own podcast or fans doing podcasts has done for the independent or even the wrestling business?
It's changed the entire wrestling industry. Now, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Wrestling used to be, especially when I first got in it, when Petey first got in it, there wasn't a chance to get this much notoriety or this much exposure this quick in someone's career. Now a guy can be around for 1 year, have a little bit of talent, but know how to market themselves and get a podcast and get YouTube and get an awesome Twitter, Instagram, or whatever they need to truly break out to that next level. Now all it takes is one clip, one GIF to set someone on fire, and a guy that's been wrestling for 1 year could be falling around the world at this point.
Do you ever see the Sami Callihan evolution going to a face turn?
You never know. Not any one person is good or evil all the time of their life. You look at the worst people in the world. I don't really use an example because I don't want to offend anyone on your guys' podcast because I actually like Petey. But think of the most horrible human being you could ever think of in your life.
Petey.
Exactly. We'll use Petey. Petey, total piece of shit.
Yeah.
But he's not a total piece of shit all the time. There has to be some sort of good in this person. That it could be of animals, it could be of their kids, but everyone will have. It's not that black and white. It really is like you can morph, become, you can change, you can grow. People aren't the same people their entire life, and that's how wrestling is as well.
You're a man of many talents and interests. You look online and you don't see a lot about Sami Callihan's personal life. How hard have you worked to keep that out?
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, but how hard is it to, in today's media where it seems like everybody knows everything, they pretend to know the inside secrets, whether something's a work or what's the wrestling a shoot. How hard is it for you to keep what you like, what you do in your free time out of your Twitter account and stuff like that?
I think it's that really easy at this point. Like I think it's people put way too much thought into it. But in my social media platforms, in any interview I do, I put out what I want people to see. I'm not being told who to be. I'm not being told what to put out. Like whatever I want people to know, I can put out. Whatever I want people not to know, I don't put out. It's that simple.
Do you think kayfabe could come back into the world of wrestling the way it was in the 80s, how protected it was? Obviously, we know...
It'll never be like 100% like that again. But now kayfabe means a whole different thing, and there's new ways of working kayfabe that no one ever thought about. Like now, like there's a whole different avenues and truly suspending someone's belief. I'm never going to give up my magic trick. That's why I look at pro wrestling. Like all these people want to give away their magic tricks all the time, but I want to be one of the people like... I don't know if this guy's all right in the head. I don't know if he's going to attack a fan. I don't know if he's going to spit on a cameraman. You really don't know what I'm going to do, and that's my magic trick. My magic trick is being able to actually suspend your disbelief, and why would I tell anyone how I do my trick?
Before we wrap this up, I want to know, outside of winning titles and working for all the top promotions, what are your goals?
I'm on 3 national television shows right now. Who else can say that?
No one else.
Give me more credit.
Oh, I know, but you didn't let me finish my question.
I want more.
You want more? Okay.
I'll give him one.
Okay.
Sammy, you used to watch me on TV. Now I watch you on TV.
Damn, I feel like the Grinch right now. It just warmed my, and his heart grew 3 sizes.
Now I look at social media. What's Sammy doing today?
Next week on TV, Sammy's
Hey,
coming out with a
don't be
smile
so
on
honest.
roses.
You created an entire generation of front foot Canadian destroying mother. Oh,
Yeah,
almost said it.
yeah.
I caught myself. I'm trying to be PC, but you spawned an entire generation of people. Like, you can go to any wrestling show in the world, and you're gonna see 8 Canadian destroyers, and you're the one that started that.
And it seems like every week you go to an Impact taping and someone says, "Hey, do you mind if I use your move on your show?"
And let's not even talk about that. Let's go.
I just said someone. I didn't say who.
Kayfabe, brother.
Kayfabe.
But going back to my question, outside of winning championships and being on the top promotions, what do you want to accomplish in the industry? When you hang up your tights, you tie your boots for the last time, you say, I accomplished everything I wanted. What are some of those things on the Sami Callihan checklist that you want to do? Places, people, just things you want to do.
I really don't set like giant goals like that because I never want to be disappointed in myself. I never want to be bothered with that. I'm going to be on this journey that I'm just continuing to do what I want. I'm a very spontaneous person, but at the same point, I'm very meticulous of how my brain thinks. Like, I do certain things for certain reasons at certain times because I know the reaction it's going to garner, and that's how I look at my career. Like, I don't know exactly what my end game is, but I'm going to change the business. I'm going to run part of this business, and I'm going to leave my mark on this business, and that's all I really have to say about
Have you felt like you changed it right now?
100%.
I think you have too.
But I think we're just on the tip.
Yeah.
Of
Just
what's
scratching
gonna
the surface. No, and Sammy, I got to give it to you, man. You are, I watch you now. You are like the master of manipulating not only a crowd, but like social media and stuff. And just, thanks for spending the time with us.
Man,
we really
thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much. That means a lot coming from you. Not so much to do with the glasses right now. It's looking at me.
That makes
I've never
me
had
feel-
anybody feel you so much.
I
This is
love
great.
this.
Actually, no, I have. But anyway, Sam, where can people find all your social media platforms, all that kind of stuff?
Check me out. Twitter, at the Sami Callihan. Same thing for Dave and Jake. The other members of OVE, at the Dave Chris, at the Jake Chris. Check me out on Instagram, at Official Callahan. And check out my promotion, The Wrestling Revolver. It's what I like to call wrestling for our generation, by our generation. And that's Twitter, at PW Revolver. Same thing on Instagram. Or check out the website, ProWrestlingRevolver.com.
Sami Callihan, thank you.
No, thank you.
I guess I should have warned you guys about the sound spike before I put that in. But anyways, sorry about the quality. We were backstage of the show. This next interview went under the radar. It's the Brian Cage interview we did where he actually openly talks about being a nerd, a video game nerd, a comic book nerd, and being able to show his skills on the mic. This Brian Cage interview should have gotten more publicity than it did. This was, to me, one of the interviews where Brian Cage really came out and showed what kind of personality he has to at least us, PD and myself. So as we wrap this up, I once again thank you guys so much for listening. WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. You can get all the links to subscribe there. We're trying to grow. Subscribing is free, and it's the best way to help us grow. And also tell your friends. That's all we ask for here at the Wrestling Perspective. And you buy shirts and get Blue Chew until Blue Chew pulls out, and then you never hear from them again, at least on our podcast. But thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen. Here's Brian Cage. P.D. Williams here on the Wrestling Perspective Podcast. We've had a ton of great names, but none literally bigger than Brian Cage. P.D., tell me, how did you land Brian Cage for our podcast?
It was actually very difficult. No, it was actually it was pretty easy. We reached out to him as somebody that we wanted on our podcast for a very long time. I know it was kind of difficult because he wasn't really doing interviews for Impact Wrestling at the time, and now he's openly talking on the microphone and stuff. So I said we got to get Brian Cage, and now this is our guest now. So Mr. Brian Cage. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Yeah. I had been hit up from a few people, via Impact about doing interviews and podcasts, and then they pulled them all since, I guess me talking was thing. Apparently, it just kind of coincidentally happened, and then now that I'm allowed to talk, I guess I can do interviews now.
Yeah, apparently. So, I mean, I'm going to start off with the first question, if it's all right with you, Dennis.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Mexico City, right? I'm sitting there, and I'm not to give anything away or anything like that. We just did tapings there, but I'm looking at this card, and we'll just say that Brian Cage was teaming up with the Lucha Brothers, and against 3 other individuals. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, all right, this is kind of like a clash of styles. But then I'm watching the match. The match is phenomenal, and I'm looking at Brian Cage. He's doing more backflips and aerial stuff than the Lucha Brothers. So my question is, I look at you. You're a bodybuilder type, great physique, all that kind of stuff. But then I see you and how athletic you are with all your flips. It's almost like you're a luchador at the same time. So my question is, do you have did you used to be like a gymnast or whatever, or were you like bodybuilding first and then went into doing all this other stuff? What's your background in that, your athletic background?
I mean, I've always been like a good athlete as far as just, playing multiple sports. A lot of it too, just, amongst my friends. Not like I went, throughout professional training or schooling for most of the sports. And, when I first started wrestling, I was always in decent shape, and it's been definitely a decade worth of progress to get to the size that I am. But dude, believe it or not, a lot of the aerial stuff that I've been able to do, I kind of just learned on the way. And some of them, even like a standing backflip, I couldn't do until just a few years ago. And I just tried it, and I was able to do it. And I was still, 250 pounds at that time. So I don't know, man. It just once I kind of got a crash pad or some places to try some stuff, I just tried it and I could do it. I was like, oh wow, holy crap, who would have thought? So there was no no gymnastic stuff, nothing. I just kind of went for it. I'm like, oh, I guess I can do it. Awesome.
So I'm gonna jump in here and change a little bit of the direction and ask you, what were you a fan of growing up? Because there are some famous stories out there where it talks about you kind of becoming friends with Chris Kanyon, which was one of my favorites. I was a WCW guy growing up. Were you a WCW guy, and that's how your friendship evolved? Can you talk about that?
So I mean, I watched both WCW and WWF at the time. But I was more a fan of of Raw than Nitro. But I would actually get up. I'd stay up and watch Raw, and I'd get up at 5 a.m. to watch the last couple hours of Nitro, because every mother effer at high school would always come up to me like, "Oh man, did you watch Nitro last night?" I'd be like, "No, I recorded it." What you would think would imply I'm going to watch it later, and then think, "Oh, Sting won the title," or whatever spoiler would happen, and it'd piss me off. Like, I just told you I recorded it. So it led me to waking up at 5 in the morning every Tuesday to watch Nitro before I went to school. But yeah, so I was almost equally a fan, but I give a little bit of nod to WWF. Now, given that, I'd never went to a WCW show, and when the Invasion angle was happening, and we're going to Raw, and I lived up in Northern California near Sacramento, it was my first chance to see Kanyon. I was always a huge fan of Kanyon. I loved all of his innovative offense and everything he did, and all of his, his angle with the Ravens flock and yada, yada, yada. So I was stoked to make a Who Better Than Kanyon sign. And this was in high school. And it was Austin Appreciation Night. And he was out there with the Alliance MVP T-shirt. He made his own Who Better Than Austin T-shirt. Because the question was always, who better than Kanyon? For those who don't know, that's why I do the Who Better Than Cage, as homage to him. And nice. I had the sign in the crowd, and he saw it, and he pointed at me, and he not recognized me, but pointed at me and acknowledged me, and I was thrilled, man. I was on cloud nine. That's all I wanted. And as the show was ending, he came back out as we were on the floor, and as we started heading up the stairs, he came back out, and he gave me the shirt, which I still have, and the Who Better Than Austin shirt. And then I ended up getting him to sign my shirt and sign the sign, and I was jazzed, and I put the whole story on his message board at the time on his webpage, and not too long afterwards that he got hurt, and I think he saw it, and he reached out to me during his downtime, and long story short, we just kind of became friends, and he kind of helped give me some opportunities in the business, and then I actually ran my own promotion in Chico, California for a little bit, and I got him to come out there. I got to work one of my idols and favorites in wrestling in my hometown, which was also a ginormous mission accomplished. I remember I even saying I felt like, at 22 or whatever, my wrestling career could be over and I'd be happy. But yeah, no. So I was a huge fan of Canyon, and actually the three people I try to emulate in the ring were, or I wanted to, were the three Chris's. That was Chris Canyon, Chris Benoit, and Chris Jericho.
Wow. Petey, can I jump in and ask one more question?
Yeah, I got the next one after you.
Okay, because I've got a ton of them. We're just going to pepper you with questions. It's like two fanboys. So you're in Impact, you're Lucha Underground. Your name pops up on a lot of these lists that are like, who could we see pop up in WWE in 2019, 2020? I don't even want to talk about that. But with the recent question marks with the Lucha Brothers, were they going, were they not? And then it comes out that they were contractably obligated to stay at MLW for a longer period of time. And you may not want to talk about it. If not, it's okay. But what links on your contract are there right now that would prevent you from moving around?
As far as to try to jump ship somewhere?
Yes.
I obviously would have to get released, but I'm signed with Impact and with Lucha Underground. Albeit from getting released, and I'm assuming if I'd have to wait the 90-month period or whatever, that would be the restraint from me going anywhere else. But not even trying to fade or save face. I'm super happy and content with where I'm at, doing the independence and with my contract with both companies. So I'm not looking to head anywhere anytime soon at all.
Okay. Hey, me either, Brian. Me either. So I want to kind of steer in a different direction. Bodybuilding, okay? Obviously, a passion of yours and stuff. So back years ago, I don't know if you're familiar with Matt Duvall, professional bodybuilder. So he used to train at the Can-Am Wrestling School where, myself and Demore and a bunch of other guys train. That was our home school. So I know that, for example, Triple H, huge mark of bodybuilding and stuff like that. Matt Duvall walked in the locker room one time with a couple other guys that were trying to get in, into WWE as an extra. And then Triple H right away, oh, Matt Duvall, come here. I want to introduce you to Vince, that kind of thing. So you being big into bodybuilding, and the problem with Matt Duvall, God rest his soul, is that phenomenal bodybuilder, but the athleticism nowhere near compared to what you have and your footwork and all that kind of stuff. So going to that, have you competed in actual bodybuilding shows? Walk me through that. How did that all work? Or are you just a fan of bodybuilding and just stay in shape?
So I wasn't anything special. Growing out getting out of high school, I was a whopping 155 pounds. I know. And then my PE teacher from sophomore year knew how much I wanted to be a wrestler, and he opened up. He was teaching summer school the year I graduated, and he opened up the weight room for me and said, "Hey, you can come out here and train. I'll let you train in the weight room if you want." So that's what kind of got my passion really into bodybuilding. I would just start to jog to my high school every morning that summer, and I would just start hitting the weights and just self-taught. And I started reading bodybuilding magazines, started to kind of really get into it and really enjoy it. And then it wasn't until 2012 that I did my first show. I kept on wanting to compete, but I kept kind of pussyfooting around it, and I don't know, what if I have a show, or what if this, or what if that. I actually got injured in 2011 and was in really bad shape. People like to find those pictures too and act like I went from what I looked like then to now overnight. But once my shoulder healed and I started training, I was like, you know what? I got a fire lit under me. I want to get in the best shape of my life, and I want to finally compete. And so in 2012, I did my first competition. I won my class in the overall and the novice, and my class in the open. I fell in love with it. I've done about 5 competitions since then. I've won my class in every one, and I've won 3 other overalls. And I actually was going to compete for my pro show for my pro card rather, in 2015, and then Lucha Underground started taping like 2 weeks sooner than was originally scheduled, and that was the weekend of my competition. And I went back and forth with them about it, and basically offered me a decent bonus not to compete. So I never did that show, and I tried to compete 2 more times after that, but it kind of like the same thing kept happening. Where like midway the prep, I'd have to like pull out of the show, so I was just tired of killing myself for no reason. So I pulled that out, and I still love bodybuilding. I mean, I was just over this past weekend during my travels. I was paying attention to the Olympia weekend, and I wanted to be out there for that. And I probably will compete again at some point, but it was more of just of a hobby passion rather than a professional passion, trying to make a career out of it. So I'm obviously fully content and happy. And this is all I've ever wanted to do since I was 10 years old, be a pro wrestler. So that's first and foremost. And I actually touch on that too. I do like to say too, I'm not a bodybuilder, trying to be a pro wrestler. I'm a pro wrestler that just happens to bodybuild.
No, absolutely. And you could tell there's a difference. And I always reference Matt Duvall because he was a pro wrestler, a pro bodybuilder trying to be a pro wrestler. You see it all the time. And I don't really think it meshes. You can tell like you're a professional wrestler that happens to, actually be a bodybuilder. Quick follow-up question. It could be a quick yes or no answer. Maybe in the future, do you like have aspirations to be like, hey, I want to get my pro card to check it off my bucket list kind of deal?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Like that. That's what I want to do is at least just check it off the list. I can compete as pro, maybe not. The glass half full part of that is, once you're freaking over 35, you could do the Masters, which is an easier way to get a pro card. So, I'm sure more than likely I probably will.
Now, Petey, when did you leave Impact the first time around?
First time around, I left in 2009. I got released. Came back 4 years later for like a couple months.
All right. So was there any overlap? Because a lot of people don't know, but you've had kind of a cup of tea in Impact between 2012 and 2014, Brian Cage. Were there any overlaps between you and Petey then that you may remember, or was it just two ships passing in the night?
I don't remember anything, Brian. I was there in 2013 for the summer of 2013. Were you there?
When did I come there? You might have been there. One of the things, because I did a couple darks. Then I did the guy deal, and then I did the Destination Next gimmick in New York. So that was summer of 2012, January 2013, and summer of 2014.
We might have. I mean, I don't remember. Brian, do you?
I'm not on top of my head. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing that like. But me too. I'm the green boy there, so I wasn't like interacting. I'm just kind of sitting there waiting for someone to tell me what to do. So
yeah.
So we talk too much, but.
Great. So you're not going to tell me Petey was a jerk to you, and you're still secretly wanting to rip off his head?
No way.
Ah,
I would have marked out if little Petey Pump was talking to me.
I'm the same way too. Let's talk about.
Hold on, Dennis.
Yes.
Hold on. I got to ask one thing. Since you said little Petey Pump, were you like because Steiner obviously great physique. Were you a Steiner fan at all? It could be a quick yes or no.
Yeah. I love Steiner.
Okay. All right. Great. Dennis, next question.
Now, when it comes to character development, wrestling fans, maybe you can throw me in here, but I'm sure I'll see you again, so you can easily pummel me if you don't agree or like the way I phrase this question, but please don't hurt me too bad. The big guys are sometimes hamstrung with character development. They're either meatheads or they don't talk a lot or they just go out and destroy things. You said Chris Jericho was one of the guys you want to emulate, who was oozing personality. What have you done to try to break the mold and break out of that I'm just a big guy gimmick?
Ooh, that's a good question too. You know what? And that's actually one of the factors amongst many others, but one of the factors of why I had Jericho in there too as well because of his charisma and his personality, which obviously separated itself too from the other two. I try to be more than just obviously looks and body guy, and then or just an impressive high spot guy as well. I don't feel like I've gotten independent shows. I've done some stuff. I don't feel like I've gotten a whole lot of I guess opportunity to try to do more personality wise or character wise on TV, especially too like Lucha when they first brought me in. And I know that's like the easy go-to, like you just said too. They brought me in kind of like, the meathead bully, heel, and it started getting a little bit more in 2 and 3, and then this past season it kind of went back to season 1, where it's just like a meathead heel. I feel like things are starting to progress. I think definitely we'll develop a lot more an impact as we're going forward. But I definitely agree with you, and I definitely want to stand out even more than I already have as just being something, not just a body guy. You know what I mean? So not only as far as in ring and presence go, but also obviously on the mic and character wise as well.
Pete.
So Brian, just switching a little bit of gear. So with Impact, it seems like I mean I don't know. Lucha, you already filmed all the season. I don't know if there's going to be a season 5, but Impact's kind of like I would say like your home right now. So back in 2000, I don't remember when you came in. I want to say it was last year, maybe in the fall-ish. Like how did this all come about? Like who approached you? Was it like Sanjay, Scott? Was it Uncle Jeff? Like who said, "Hey, Brian, we want you"?
So originally, what's it talking to? I was talking to somebody about it. I don't know, like they're like back and forth about doing it because technically we weren't supposed to with the Lucha contracts, but I know a lot of people complain because there was such a long time off from season 3 to season 4, and then I believe it was Taya and Johnny that first started doing stuff with Impact before anybody else, and we're like, hey, what the hell? And it kind of it started trickling down to where they opened up the contracts with Lucha. Because everyone was kind of complaining and wanted their release. So they're like, hey, you know what? You can work outside of WWE, or everyone but WWE, but we still get first priority. And then I know I reached out to Sanjay a few times before that and after that. And then I think from that, Scott called me, and then Dorian called me for AAA, and then Scott called me back, and then we worked out the deal from there.
Okay.
When Pete, before he came back into wrestling, we were at a show, and one of the wrestlers had kind of warned him, don't go back to Impact. This is before, we much talk about it a lot on this podcast about how they clean up their act, rebuilding bridges. Was there any people that were like, hey, man, you may want to stay away from Impact? Because around that time, there was still a switch over. It was a very new regime, cleaning up a lot of the messes of the past TNA. Were there guys that were just like, hey, you may not want to go there?
Well, yeah, you know what, too, and that was one of the factors, too, because I was actually trying to talk with some ideas, too, with Ring of Honor as well, about possibly going there instead. And the holdup there was nothing set in stone or guaranteed, where there was with Impact. But, for lack of a better term, Impact, hadn't really gotten cool again just yet. I know Ring of Honor was, so I was like, Ring of Honor might be the better choice, but, there's I could be sitting around forever. It might not even happen. I don't know. I'm like, Impact's here right now. And after talking to Scott a couple of times and just kind of, the ship going in a different direction and kind of what they had in store, I was just kind of hoping and feeling that, things would be okay there. And I had a waiting, and that was an opportunity that was knocking my door. So I said, what, let's open it and give it a shot. And I remember the first day, the first week out there, and to be flat honest, I didn't watch a whole lot of Impact outside of like the last 2 pay-per-views when I got there. And I remember the first day I was so surprised, like how good the wrestling was. I was like, oh man, this show was actually ran pretty smooth. The wrestling was pretty good. I'm like, hey, it's not so bad. And the rest of the week kind of went the same throughout the whole part. And that was like, I feel like that first week in January of tapings was kind of the like the point. Like that was like the turning point week where like things started to kind of turn around a little bit. And obviously the Redemption pay-per-view and so on and so on. Like everything else started, just it's really been knocking out of the park. And I feel like the product itself and the locker room, and it's just great, man. So I'm definitely glad that I decided to go with Impact, and I like where things are going.
Now, PD, I've got one more question before I let him go. Why don't you, if you have one, go ahead, and we'll wrap it up with my question. Okay.
I do. So, Brian, you were at All In, all right? So part of awesome. Obviously it was probably a great experience for you and stuff. I didn't watch it, but I'm hearing about all the stuff that happened in the battle royale and stuff. Do I agree with it with your character and stuff? Absolutely not. Maybe you could steer me in a different direction, but it's kind of intriguing with you and Jordan Grace. Like, I mean, do you feel like you guys are going to have like some sort of long-term independent feud? Like, it's kind of intriguing. Like, can you tell me about that?
All right. So coincidentally, Drew from Beyond Wrestling had hit me up about working her like way before the Battle Royal. And I actually was opposed to it. Not because, she's a girl, but because I've done 2 intergender matches, like full-on one-on-one intergender matches that both got rave reviews. And I was with Taya from Lucha Underground and with Tessa from Wrestle Circus. Now, I think those work so well, too, because of like kind of the feud and the story, kind of what we had built into it before going to the match. So it wasn't just, a freak show intergender match for the sake of it. So that's my only complaint. I was like, if there's more built into it, that'd be cool. I was like, you know what, Drew? She may not like this, but she's so like the female Michael Elgin, she's not a big fan of his, as far as like, her style, her look, her tights. And that's, a tag team partner of mine in the indies. So like, well, I would rather just team with her. We can be like the intergender effing machines. And then, we can wrestle whatever couple. And I put that out there and he liked it and it wasn't really working out. And he's like, oh man, I'm really sold on you guys working. Come on. And so long story short, I ended up, agreeing taking the match. And then coincidentally, a few weeks later, the all-in, over budget battle royal happens. And as they're going over the booking for that, and how they're making me look strong and what they're doing, I can already tell on paper. Like as it's going down the list, right away I think in my head, like, oh, they're gonna have Jordan eliminate. It just makes sense. And then sure stuff. When it comes down to the final 4, Jordan eliminates me. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't stoked on the idea as I was predicting it would turn out that way. But it's not like she beat me. She eliminated me, and it got such a good reaction and got so over, and especially how the way we put it together. I actually think that was the best way for me to be eliminated because, like, if I was to make it to that final 4, anytime I was to throw out Jordan or whatever and turn around and get thrown out by Bully Ray or by Cole Cabana, it would be very forgettable. There wouldn't have been anything special to it, so to speak. But then the shock value of me, looking so strong with the Battle Royal and then slipping on a banana peel and getting eliminated by Jordan Grace, I felt got more traction, more momentum behind it than any other elimination. So, and to the fact that people may not be or maybe opposed to it, like such as yourself, I think also make people talk about it. I did, however, forget that it was on TV. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess maybe I could see, how maybe Office wouldn't be so thrilled on it. But, all in all, I don't think it was a horrible thing. And then we actually just had our match this past Sunday, and I killed her. So don't worry. I'm looking strong.
All right. And finally, I want to wrap this up with, we went back to this whole meathead thing and we were talking about you, and you're just so big and so likable. Talk me out of your personality, why you're not a meathead. Are you a nerd? Are you a video game guy? It's for me.
Oh, man, all of the above.
When I see
all of the above, I'm go ahead.
When I see Brian Cage, I think, all right, that guy, and once again, please don't beat me up. I am 5'9". I bumped into you once and went through a wall, so you can sneeze and beat me up. When I see Brian Cage in the ring as a fan, I think, all right, limited vocabulary, which is not true because it goes with the whole meathead thing, the Cro-Magnon kind of just, I'm big, I want to smash things. What personalities do you have? What likes do you have? What are something fans would be like, whoa, Brian Cage loves ABBA? What can you tell us about your personality? I'd be like, I'm a nerd just like everybody else.
Oh, well, perfect. Well, let's see. I'm a huge fan of video games. I don't get to play them as much as I used to due to my schedule, but I still have plenty of video games. I can't wait for Resident Evil 2 to come out. It's my all-time favorite video game, the remake, rather. I'm waiting to pick up the new Spider-Man game when I go see my son, who actually worked me. He texted me. I have a son who's 12, and he goes, hey, Dad, do you have the new Spider-Man game? I go, no. He's like, oh, when do you want? I really want to play it. So I was thinking, if you just wait till you get the Chico to buy it, then maybe we could borrow Corey. That's my younger brother. Maybe we could borrow Corey's PlayStation 4, and then so that way you can have the game, but But then that way I get to play it too. I'm like, oh, I see what you're doing here. But yeah, big fan of video games. Huge comic book nerd. I have tons of comic books. I have so much Wolverine memorabilia. That's why also my monikers and my repertoire of moves are all named after him. I absolutely love Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. I've got more memorabilia for that than anything. A huge horror movie fan as well as comic book movie fan, obviously. Probably the number one reference or I guess compliment or lack thereof from any girl is how much of a nerd or dork I am. Nothing gets me more excited than freaking desserts and sweets and junk food. I have a pug. Absolutely love pugs. I also have a pet hedgehog. I don't know what else. My buddy Drake's right. What else makes me more normal and less meatheady, huh?
From a small town.
I worked at a sweet little movie theater forever that I absolutely love. So I got free tickets there.
Yeah.
And that was my first job to have like 5.5 years. But I don't know, man. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I know a lot of people will see me in the gym or out and about and think like, oh, with the mohawk or faux hawk and just all the muscles, I look like an asshole. But I'm very usually approachable and nice, and usually not what anybody expects. So, and you know, I feel like my vocabulary, you know, can be quite substantial at times, you know. So I don't know.
Wow. Well, listen,
I would,
Pete.
I would definitely say, yeah, you're not a meathead, Dennis. I've and everybody listening, I've worked with Brian for I don't know, almost a year now, let's say, and he's anything but that. I have nothing but good things to say about him. Super approachable. First time I met him, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to agent this match or get it or whatever the case may be. Oh, like, I mean, really easy to work with and stuff. And Brian, thank you so much for coming on our show. Dennis and I really appreciate it. And we wish you nothing but, like, you know, success in the future.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, no problem. Had fun doing it. Again, sorry it didn't work out last time, but hey, better late than never. So appreciate it. Appreciate the fun questions.
No.
Yeah. Hey, where can people find you? Like on social media, whatever you got to plug. Where can people find you?
All right, let's see. I mean, you could just Google Brian Cage and you could figure it out. But
Obviously.
Brian Cage on Instagram, Mr. GMSI_B Cage on Twitter. It's a really crappy name, but I got a blue check mark, so I can't change it. And ProWrestlingTees.com/Brian Cage if you want to get some sweet Brian Cage swag, or the Impact Shop Zone for those two actually really impressive Marvel-esque designs that you guys made for me.
I wish I could say I made them, but I did not.
Right.